Ultimate Fighting Championship has just signed a new television deal or streaming deal, but what does this mean? The new $7.7 billion deal with Paramount, which is near enough what the proposed merger between Skydance Media and Paramount is actually worth at $8 billion, the UFC's new deal will see the end of pay-per-view, with the majority of UFC events airing on Paramount Plus, the company's streaming service, which means 13 numbered events that the UFC put on every year will be part of the subscription package, which could save the individual fight fan money in the long run. The deal also includes a simulcasting agreement, which could see the UFC's biggest events airing on the over-the-top television service CBS. In numbers terms, this deal, which represents £5.7 billion, will see per year the UFC net $1.1 billion a year for the next 7 years, which is worth around £800 million. Although the deal signed will be back heavy, so no, the UFC won't get that sort of money at the start of the deal, but they will get more towards the end of their contract. This concludes the business that UFC parent company TKO has been doing recently, with sister company WWE earning $500 million a year with a Netflix deal for 10 years, a deal that started in January of 2025. The Netflix deal represents international distribution for WWE. Also, TKO announced just days before the UFC deal that WWE's premium live events would be leaving the Peacock streaming service for a new national distribution deal with Disney, which is worth $1.6 billion over 5 years. In total, TKO from 2026 is set to earn in just rights fees for WWE and UFC around $2 billion a year. That doesn't include ticket sales or hosting fees for big events. The next question is, will the UFC fighters benefit from this deal? Potentially no. This could be very bad for the fighters who have negotiated into their contracts a percentage of revenue from pay-per-view sales on events that they're featured on. Georges St-Pierre, the retired UFC legend, has said, quote, "When I was competing, I was able to have a great argument to negotiate on my contract. I could tell the UFC, hey, if you want me to do all the promotion, I want to become a partner. I want a piece of the pie to negotiate a part of the pay-per-view revenue, because if I'm doing all the promotion, I'm helping you, but you need to help me. You need to make me a partner, so it might be a bad thing for the fighters in a way that they have less leverage." That's what I think. I think it's going to take some leverage for the big names to have an argument to negotiate more money. The reported cap on fight bonuses is currently around $50,000. The biggest fighters historically were given cuts of the overall pay-per-view buy rate, such as Brock Lesnar, Ronda Rousey, and St-Pierre himself. This is the same issue that the WWE had when it launched the WWE Network, its own in-house streaming service, as performers were no longer getting a cut of pay-per-view revenue because there wasn't any. Could this see the creation of some sort of fighters' union, as the fighters don't really have much leverage, otherwise they could threaten to pull out of UFC events, but when you look at the UFC compared with other promotions, it's the biggest show in town and someone will always be there to take your spot. What makes this television deal a little bit stranger is that up until 2023, Paramount owned its own in-house MMA promotion in Bellator. Bellator would be folded into and acquired by the Professional Fighters League. The deal to buy came in 2023 and it was folded into the PFL in 2025. But because of that sale, Paramount own a stake in the PFL, which, whilst a minority stake, that means they own a part of a rival business to the UFC. It would be like Turner Networks buying WWE whilst airing AEW. If anything, this is a return for the UFC to a company that helped establish it as a profitable entity, with The Ultimate Fighter having aired on Spike, which is now the Paramount Network. What do you think of this deal? Do you think it's going to be a good thing for fight fans? Do you think it's going to be a good thing for the fighters? And do you think it's going to be a good thing for the UFC as a whole for the product? It's definitely good for their bank balances, let me tell you that. Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and we'll see you next time.